Hello and welcome to TBI's Share the Light podcast. I'm Jody Sanders and I'm here, a lay leader at TBI. Again, no qualifications to lead religious life here at TBI, just that I am Jewish and I was willing to get voted on the board, and I'm willing to also read these podcast scripts. That's how I got here. Anyway, I am very, very thrilled to thank Multicultural Victoria, and a special shout out to the Multicultural Affairs team in Victoria's Department of Premier and Cabinet, who approved the grant that is allowing us to share the light this Jewish festival of Hanukkah with all of you listeners and some of you that are viewing this as well. Today we have two very, very special guests. They are here to share a little bit more about a global perspective, talking about multiculturalism. They are Indian, Canadian, Australians, and I would like to welcome Ken and Esther Daniels. Hello.
Hi, Jody. Nice to be here.
It's so great to be here with you. You know, a little disclosure for the audience. We actually know each other. We're friends. Yes. We've been on Perm Spiels together, the plays. Our kids are friends and have had the opportunity to spend time together. So it's wonderful to get to chat to you today. And of course, I'm excited to learn things that I don't know about you. So it'll be really wonderful as we share that with the audience. So first, as Indian, Canadian, Australians, how about you share a little bit about yourselves with us? First, where were you born, each of you individually?
I was born in Bombay, which is now called Mumbai.
Mumbai.
And grew up in a very traditional, you would say, Orthodox Jewish home.
Okay.
So we had, I'm the youngest of 4 sisters. My mom and dad, we didn't have any brothers. Lived in the suburbs of Mumbai, which was called Bandra. Not very much inside the the Jewish hub, which was a little distance away from where we were.
Yes.
Because we located in an area where there were good schools. Okay. So that was very important to my parents.
Yep.
But there were a couple of Jewish schools that we had, but which were very far away. And it was hard to travel. So my mom and dad settled on an all-girls Jewish private school. It wasn't Jewish, just an all-girls private school for girls.
So it was more of a secular education.
Secular education. Yep. And so there were all different kinds of ethnicities or religions which were allowed in the school. So we had a lot of Hindus, Muslims, Christians. I was the only Jewish one.
Okay.
I was the only Jewish one. And the only thing was that they didn't have any, we were not forced to follow any specific religion. Or if you went to a Catholic school, you had to go to their, not their church, but they had services or masses that you would go. But they didn't force us to follow it, but you would have to attend it, and which my family didn't really want us to do.
Okay.
So when we went to the private girls' school, we had subjects like moral science, which didn't teach us about any particular religion, but about how to live a moral, ethical, and a good life.
Okay. So moral science.
Moral science,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so did you have an opportunity to supplement your education with a Jewish education at that time? So how did you do that?
Mainly all our Jewish education came from home, which was from mom and dad. And we had to go for Hebrew lessons to the synagogue, or there would be private tutors that would come home and teach us Hebrew. But all our religious learning came mainly from mom and dad.
From family life.
Family at home. Everything at home.
Okay. And Ken, how about you?
I was born in Bombay as well, but I left Bombay at 10 months old.
Oh, wow.
And I moved to Canada. So my dad had applied for a job. A job was posted in India in one of the university papers. He went to Cambridge University. I think he was an alumni of Cambridge University in Bombay.
Okay.
And there was an advertisement in the press, the paper.
Yeah.
And he applied basically for a job. It was the Iron Ore Company of Canada looking for engineers, people with an engineering degree, who could work and provide assistance and guidance in the iron ore mines in Canada. So he applied for that, and it turned out to be successful. What they did was they reviewed his application. They ended up paying for his flight and flying him from Bombay to Canada,
Yes.
Newfoundland, and he went through a process of interview as well as an orientation. I think it was, from what I remember, 2 weeks. I mean, I couldn't remember. I'm not remembering as a
Stories that your
10-month-old,
father
but
would have
just
told you,
stories.
yeah.
I think he went through about a 2-week period of orientation, and he was basically hired as an engineer for the mines. And he basically came back to Bombay and collected up, closed down all of his dealings with what he had going there, and
Picked up
basically
his family?
moved the family. So it was myself, an older brother. My brother was a year and a half older than me, and my mom
Yep.
and my dad, and we moved to Newfoundland, and I was there for 6 years. We were in a town called Wabash.
Okay.
Okay, and this is in Labrador, Newfoundland, on the mainland of Canada, and there was it was a town of 5,000 people,
Wow.
and we were the only Jewish family in that town.
In the town of 5,000 people.
And
wow.
there was one other Muslim family in that town. They were living on the other side of the town.
So one Jewish family, one Muslim family, that was it.
That's it,
Everybody
and it
else-
was basically a lot of Irish influence in Newfoundland. A lot of people, of Irish descent.
Yeah.
A lot of Catholics and a lot of Protestants.
Right.
And one family of Jews and one family of Muslims, and that was it.
Amazing. Do you have many memories?
I'll tell you the one thing that sticks with me is every Saturday. We obviously didn't have a shul to go to.
Yep.
But every Saturday I would wake up. I was an early riser at that time. I don't really like getting up early now, but I do.
Right.
But I'm really not, inclined that way. But anyway, as a little guy, I used to get up to watch the Saturday morning cartoons. It was Bugs Bunny. I still remember. It was 3 episodes of Bugs Bunny and the like. It was a half-an-hour program, and I'd go into the living room, and sometimes my dad, he would kind of interrupt my TV watching, or he may sometimes start after or start before the actual TV show, but he would get up with his psalm book and his prayer book on a Saturday morning, and he would go into an adjacent room, our TV room, an adjacent room, and there was like this one little wooden chair in the corner, and he used to sit there, put a kippah on his head, sit on that chair, and he'd go through his
A head covering, a kippah, yeah.
Kippah, yeah. He would sit there and just go through his prayers, and I'd watch him, and I still remember sometimes just curled up on the sofa watching my dad, and I would think, come on, Dad, the cartoons are on.
Come watch Bugs
I
Bunny.
want to
Yeah.
get, Bugs Bunny's waiting, But that I remember, and that happened, Saturday after Saturday after. It was just a regular routine of my dad getting up and doing his thing, and and maintaining his Judaism, and that has stuck with me all these years. That is probably the one thing that has given me a good foundation, to see that it doesn't matter where you live and where you are,
Doesn't
and
matter
how
many people
isolated
around
you are.
Yeah.
You can maintain your Judaism
It's
and your
amazing.
faith. So yeah, that's.
What a wonderful foundation
Yeah,
to give you.
yeah.
And so you lived there until you were about 6?
I was almost 7 years old, and I just.
And then where did you...
We moved from Newfoundland because my dad had a brother and sisters in central Canada,
Yeah.
Toronto and Montreal. So we moved from Newfoundland. He basically gave up his mining job at that time, and he ended up working for Coca-Cola in Toronto.
Okay.
And that we moved in, when I was like almost 7 years old. So.
And was there a larger Jewish population in
Absolutely. It
Toronto?
was almost like culture shock, because, all of a sudden I'm seeing all kinds of Jews, like Hasidic Jews and religious Jews and people with kippahs, walking the streets. And
So different denominations of Jews?
I was like, it was almost surreal to me as a child, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, like, wow, there's a lot of, I didn't realize there were so many Jews.
There are different practices here.
Absolutely,
right?
and it was kind of like I just got kind of thrown into that. So but obviously a lot more exposure to Judaism and teachings and things like that. So
And did you join a synagogue at that time?
we did.
or-
We were with Beth Shalom Synagogue. That was in central part of Toronto.
Yes.
And that's where I had my bar mitzvah as well.
Yes.
And we also belong to the Bnei Israel of North America community synagogue. But they only have services during the high holidays and special events, Hanukkah and Purim and things like that. So
Okay. And was that a progressive synagogue or was
conservative.
that conservative?
Yeah,
Right.
very
okay.
conservative.
So I grew up in a conservative synagogue in the United States, and then went to a Reform synagogue.
Yeah.
So again, a different stream of Judaism, and of course, now here in a progressive shul.
Correct.
And so for you, Esther, were you in a synagogue in India, or where did you?
Yeah, we had, I think there are still about 5 or 6 functioning synagogues right now. But our family synagogue was called Tiferet Israel. So that's where my mom and dad grew up going to, and that's where we all went to. So that was also a very conservative, traditional synagogue with a mekitza and, no sitting together and
So men and women sat
separate,
separately.
and
yeah.
women not having bat mitzvahs or women not being called up, so not progressive at all.
Right.
So
right.
there was a progressive stream starting in India at that time. It was called the JRU, but my father had nothing to do with that.
Right. Okay. Wasn't ready for that just yet.
No, not ready.
And so you talk about in India there were different groups of Jews. Am I right in saying
Yeah,
that?
so we are the Bnei Israels. So we are called the sons of Israel, Bnei Israels.
Bnei Israel,
So we actually came to India, I would say, after the destruction of the Second Temple. Is that correct?
Correct.
Around the 70 AD.
70 BC.
BC, sorry.
770 BC.
Oh, yeah. And then we had the Kochini Jews, which are they're also called like the Baghdadi Jews. Then you have the name that I told you, which is the Bnei Menashe.
Yes.
The Bnei Menashe, which come mainly from Mizoram and central part of India. And there are other different Jews. I think they call them the Madras Jews. I don't really know a lot about them, but I know the Kochini Jews landed on the south side of India, and they came as traders for silk and spices, and I even believe peacocks.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they came there, and they were very welcomed by the kings of south of India. I think it was, I don't remember exactly the state, but it was, and that synagogue that they built is called the Pardesi. And it's a beautiful synagogue, and a replica of that one is in Tel Aviv, in the museum in Tel Aviv.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
It's called the Pardesi synagogue. So that was the one that was built by the Kochini Jews who landed there. And then we are the Bnei Israels. Basically, the story is that 7 women and 7 men were, what do you call?
On a voyage.
Shipwrecked.
Shipwrecked.
Yeah. They were on a voyage from, this was again after the destruction of the Second Temple.
Yeah.
They were on a voyage for doing their trade route.
Okay.
And they were shipwrecked on the shores of Bombay.
Okay.
And they landed on the coast of a town called a village called Alibag. And that's how they say that the group of 7 men and 7 women landed there. This is the story.
Right.
And they started, that's how the Jews landed in India.
And a community was there.
And a community was started from there.
This particular group of
This
Jews. So the
particular
different
group,
yes.
groups
Bnei
came
Israel.
from different places.
Because
Different
I think
parts.
you'd mentioned the other, the Cochin were
The,
there.
the Cochin
They
came
were there 500 years prior to this.
Oh wow.
That's what
Yes,
they,
so-
yeah.
And did all the groups get along, or did they?
I
welcome each other?
I think the Kochini Jews actually got along well with the Beni Israels. And because we lost a lot of our prayer books, our materials, and all our religious artifacts in this shipwreck,
Right.
it was the Kochini Jews who sort of came along and guided us through and helped us through settling in the process. So the things that we remembered to do, like what do you say, by heart or by rituals and custom, was circumcising our boys and doing the Shema Israel and not working on a Saturday.
Yes.
So that is why we got the specific name. They called us Shanwar Tailis. Shanwar Tailis means, Shanwar means Saturday,
Yes.
and Tailis means oil merchants. We were oil merchants mainly. That's the profession that we took on in Bombay.
So literally Saturdays,
pressers.
oil merchants.
Because we didn't work on the Saturdays.
Isn't that amazing?
So that's why we were called Shanwar Teli. So this is that group of people that don't work on the Saturday,
Right.
the oil merchants. So, so these few things like saying the Shema, circumcising the boys, and not keeping kosher. That was very important because they already knew about that. They had already learned that, so that they didn't need any books to follow their prayers or to conduct services for high holidays or anything like that. But they had the Kochini Jews that came by and guided them through that. And then there was another gentleman, David Rahabi, I think, who came as a tradesperson and spotted us.
Okay.
That there is this group of people who do things differently.
Was this also back in sort of 770?
That was much later, I think.
I don't know
David
how
Rahabi.
many years later was that.
1500s or something
Yeah.
like
Oh, in the
that.
1500s,
Yeah.
so a bit
much,
later.
much later.
Yeah,
Much
yeah.
later. And then
But
he,
he introduced.
But still a long time ago.
Yeah.
long time ago, yeah. And then he noticed that they do things differently, and he brought back, introduced us to all our books and brought back the things, and the synagogues were built, and all these things happened after that.
Okay, so there was some rituals and practice that was happening.
Already
and,
happening,
And then in around the 1500s, things became more established and
around there,
more.
yeah.
more
Give or take,
established,
yeah.
and
Around the world.
the synagogues were built, and we had a certain way of doing certain things, and because first people were a little skeptical,
Right.
like who are these group of people,
Okay.
like they do things differently. They have right on the 8th day they circumcise the boys. They don't eat certain kinds of fish. They only eat the fish with fins and scales on them.
Yes.
They don't eat pork. They don't mix the meat and milk. They knew how to salt the meat and take off the blood and do
The things for
the
keeping kosher, yes.
kosher. So all these things they knew, but and they did Shema for many things. Like Shema Israel was that they knew it by heart.
Right.
So that is why when this gentleman came and he saw
That they must be Jewish.
Jewish,
So he wanted to help them
help
along.
them out, and and that's how it all started.
Wow. And so, Ken mentioned growing up in a town initially where there was one Jewish family amongst 5,000 people, which was also quite small. What was the population like in Mumbai or Bombay at the time? And
That time, I don't know.
I know now it's roughly
5,000
5,000
left?
5,000.
Only
That's
5,000
it.
Jews
Yeah,
left
when you're
in
talking
India.
about 1.3 billion people.
yeah, right. So
I
it's
mean that's just Bombay, but still, you might have a few thousands, in some of the other larger cities, but still, it's a drop in the bucket.
very small,
yeah.
very small.
I'm not sure how many we were at that time.
I mean, it probably post World War II, I think there were roughly 40 or 50,000.
Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of migration, a lot of going to USA, Canada, Israel,
in the 50s.
England.
After World War II.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that people moved from India after World War II. What was that about?
Like I said about many of mostly all Beni Israels are very Zionist.
Yes.
They're all for Israel. They're all for looking out for the best interest of Israel. So they felt they needed to be there
To help out.
to get their country growing and settle,
Because it was so young in the
so
50s
young
and
to
60s.
help it prosper.
Yes.
So my maternal grandparents went and actually they stayed in Kiryat Shmone and they lived in tents at that time.
Okay, wow.
My uncles also, my mom's, both her brothers went to, actually all three brothers and their parents lived in Kiryat Shmone and they've lived there ever since.
Wow.
So on my maternal side of the family. And many of the other Bene Israels began moving, mainly because they felt that they wanted Jewish spouses for
Okay.
their children.
Okay.
They felt it would be easier
Right.
to continue that way, to find. And though there was never any anti-Semitism in India, we were very much welcomed and loved, and they still felt that they needed to be
Elsewhere, in Israel.
But
But there's about 5,000 or 6,000 Jews still in India
In
today,
India
about
today.
5 or 6
yeah,
synagogues
Bombay.
in
Bombay.
Bombay, or Mumbai. There's probably more in all of
a few
India,
bits,
yeah.
like maybe
That number may be in some of the other major cities, Delhi and
yes.
2 or 3 families, maybe,
Calcutta.
But
Kolkata.
mainly right now Bombay, and actually specifically a place called Thane, which is on the outskirts of Bombay now. So there's a growing population there.
Right. Okay.
And but U.S. has a large population. Toronto has a large Indian
Canada,
Jewish population.
Right.
There is a small population here, but
In-
not very large in Australia
Yes.
and England.
England,
Yes.
England has a large
And
Bene
South
Israel-
America?
and South America, but Israel has the largest number
Indian-
of Indian Jewish population.
Jewish
there.
population. And so in India, of course, the major religion is Hinduism.
Correct.
And that's a religion of many gods.
Correct.
And of course, Judaism is a religion of one God. What was that like growing up? Was that, that
See, we always growing up in our home, my father and mother, always somehow we knew we were different.
right?
We were different. So I had a lot of Hindu friends, I had Muslim friends, I had Christian friends. We all got along beautifully. There was no problem at all. But my parents always said, you mix with everybody, you go out with everybody, but if you go to their church or their temple, don't do certain things that we don't do.
Right.
Because that's not what we do, because we are not idol worshippers. We believe in the one God.
Yes.
So we don't bow down to anything. So I've been to temples. She would say, go to a temple. Everybody else, my friends, would bow down. Don't bow down.
Yes.
She said, if somebody politely puts something on your forehead, respect them, but you can eventually maybe just lightly take it off or something. But we were always told, like it was drilled into our head, like you wouldn't believe it, that go everywhere, do everything, but we
Learn
are
about things, but stay who you are.
Stay true to who you are.
Yeah.
We are Jewish. We keep our Sabbath. We'll try to keep it as much as we can because we had to work on a Saturday.
Yes.
Our food is different. She said, eat vegetarian. If you're going to a friend, be careful. We don't eat pork and we don't eat crustaceans and shrimp and lobster. These things from the time we grew up was drilled into us.
Yes.
So, and certain things that mom made, and Shabbat was a big deal in our house. So every Saturday we knew that there's going to be a
big dinner.
A big dinner. And that's the day we ate meat. We were vegetarians,
Right.
mainly. And to respect the Hindus, we never really ate beef.
Right.
So my father had to travel quite a distance to get kosher meat, which was mainly goat
Okay.
meat. So, and that was eaten mainly on Shabbat or Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, on those special days where kosher chicken was brought in or kosher goat was brought in and the community would distribute and we would get it. But normally in all the other days, it was mainly vegetarian. So it was really easy to eat in friends' homes because many of my Hindu friends were vegetarian.
Yes.
So it never really, and they enjoyed eating in our house and
Right.
coming to our house and they knew. And especially when Rosh Hashanah came, they said, Esther, can we have your halwa now? Because
Right.
we used to make
Halava, so explain what that is.
It's different from
It's not sesame?
Not the
No.
sesame seed halwa. we make a halwa for Rosh Hashanah made with coconut milk
Oh,
and rice flour.
oh.
Yeah. Many of the things were made.
I think I'd like that recipe. I
Yeah.
might have to ask you
I
for
would-
that separately. That's okay. Just put the mic back on. We're a podcast here. We can keep going. No worries.
Okay.
Very casual here. So yeah, no, I'll definitely want that
Yeah, so
halva
we
recipe.
made that, and they would love to come and eat that the halwa that we made for
For
Rosh
the Jewish
Hashanah.
New Year.
Jewish
that's,
New Year.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so in Canada, what was that like for you to trying to, hold on to both your Jewish heritage and your Indian heritage? What was that like?
Well, to tell you the truth, I mean, when we first moved from India to Canada, being in Newfoundland, I think there was a lot of assimilation.
Yes.
Kind of not that we lost things, but we just became Canadianized very quickly. And we got into the whole hockey and.
Did you play hockey as a kid?
I did.
Well done.
Just the whole culture, the
Yes.
whole Canadian culture, and like I said, you still hang on to certain things, but food, like things like foods, it was like mostly the diet of Canada,
Yeah.
But not. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't eat things like bacon and things,
For sure.
restricted foods. But from what I remember, I just kind of became one of the boys, one of the Canadians, and I didn't have that whole Indian. I mean, I was obviously an Indian Jew.
Yes.
But I was probably more Canadianized than anything.
Yeah.
But moving to Toronto, it kind of reconnected a lot of things.
Yes.
Because there we had the B'nai Israel community, and there was a lot more Judaism around me. As a young child, a young boy.
Yes.
7, 8, 9, 10. Coming up to bar mitzvah age, I became a little more immersed in the whole scene of Judaism and synagogue, and things like we had like a Sunday school, and that I attended over a few years.
Where you learned Jewish history. and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Hebrew.
that kind of built more of an actual knowledge and foundation.
Right.
But in Newfoundland, not a lot.
Not a
a lot. Other than like I said, my dad and we would celebrate some of the festivals. Of course, we'd have Pesach and Purim and Hanukkah. But Hanukkah was just like we had one little menorah there, and my dad used to put a little crown on my head, and I used to light the candle. So, but again, that's all part of it. That's all part of the whole historical, foundation of being who you are.
How your family connects
Yeah.
through traditions, et cetera, and the stories that you tell.
Correct.
And so the two of you, so you're in Canada, you're in India.
Yes.
How'd you meet?
So I, back in my mid-20s, I wanted to do this volunteer program with the Israeli army.
Okay.
So we had something called Sarel through Toronto.
And what does Sorel mean?
Sarel it's a volunteer.
Okay.
So it's a volunteer program. And I applied for that through my synagogue, through Beth Shalom. And
It's an army program.
it's an army program.
Sarel is an army. I don't know exactly what it stands for. I forget now, but it's
Sahal is, I think, army, an actual
Sahal means army, I think.
Okay.
And
But
Sarel
Sarel
is a volunteer side
where
of
you
it.
volunteer for the army program. Where you
Correct.
go and work in a certain base,
Okay.
and you help out.
Okay.
Right. Thank you for clarifying.
You can see you're a married
She's got
couple.
that
It's
in
so
it.
cute.
That's
Go
just,
on.
It's like that yin yang thing.
Totally.
So I went through, I still remember the rabbi, a lovely man, Rabbi
Monson.
David Monson, and he ended up, giving me a reference to do this. So, I went through the application process. I was approved, and I went to Israel to work on a food base. It was a basis mazon, and I remember the name of the base. It was Tzrifin, which is like halfway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
Okay.
basically, my job was, for the most part, we did a lot of painting and repairing and things like that, but mostly packing food for soldiers
Okay.
in cartons, boxes, loading them up onto trucks, shipping them out. Just that was the basic thing. And we'd obviously have downtime, things where we could leisurely do things. And I remember there was another group. I don't know if you were visiting or whether you were just, it was a visit.
Yeah,
I think we were visiting that base, and we had a lot of the people from her group knew a lot of the people from my group, and we decided to go to a group movie. And it was some Israeli film. I don't even remember the name.
Movie night.
It was like something in Hebrew with English subtitles. And I remember seeing Esther. She was sitting maybe 7 or 8 people down, and we were kind of looking at each other. And that was kind of our first date.
That's gorgeous. A group date with lots of people.
Date,
Because we did. I also went on a program called WUJS, World Youth of Jewish Students.
Okay.
I did WUJS many years ago, and I did the program of going. I learned my Hebrew. We traveled Israel. We studied, and then in part of that, you get a program to choose where you want to go. Do you want to go to kibbutz, or do you want to volunteer somewhere else? I always loved the army. I'm an army girl. I want to go to the army, so I volunteered with the army.
Right.
And
So what were you volunteering doing? So Ken was packing food. What were you doing?
I worked with the tanks, actually.
You worked with the tanks?
Inside the tanks. I worked inside the tanks to
Scary.
see how they do the first aid, where they keep the first aid, and also inventory of food. They keep food inside there.
Right, okay.
There's food and canned food, and so that was my job to take what is
Inventory
missing,
and
inventory, and to fill things back in, so that sometimes the soldiers live in there for so long that they need
the
to
food
have all
and
this.
medical things.
So sitting inside a tank was just bizarre for me.
Wow. So
But-
what year was this?
This was 1986.
1986.
Six, and then I did another one again after the Gulf War. Actually, I went
She
again
went back again.
after the Gulf War, and I did another volunteer with Sarel.
Wow.
So, and that time we had to do a lot more inventory on there because they had, they were always on their missions, and I did have a ride in one of the tanks.
You got to go in the
I
tank
did.
yourself.
I did get to go in one of the tanks myself, which was bizarre. Made friends. They actually offered me a job. Esther, do you want to work with the army?
Right.
But
You went back for him.
If I had not married him.
Yeah, I mean, that was 86. I mean, and we kind of, a whole bunch of people exchanged, didn't have, phones and all that stuff,
Yeah.
But
No
we
email
exchanged
in 1986.
Corresponded with
addresses,
each
it was
other
all
and all
snail
that.
mail. That was the thing, it was the,
So you mailed
right-
each other letters for a
This
while.
was but this was there was a big gap after that where there was no contact.
After the first day.
After that, after that, that
Oh, the
whole
little
session,
period,
that
yeah.
whole period of being in Israel, because I was there for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And then I think it probably was late 80s, This is 3-4 years later that I wrote her, and then she wrote back 3 months later or something.
And then he
So you just remembered her and thought, I like that girl.
And then it just kind of intensified a little bit,
Right.
more frequent,
So you were pen
letters.
pals, basically, from
Basically,
Canada to India and back and forth.
Probably went on for about 2 or 3 years like that, and then I was going to go to India to visit my grandmother who was still living there, and that was when I wrote her. I said, I'm coming to visit my grandmother. Why don't we reconnect, and see what happens?
And I was in Israel at that time. I had actually made Aliyah to Israel.
So you had moved to
I
Israel.
had already moved to Israel to make Aliyah, and my parents were deciding to move also. But my mom fell ill.
Okay.
So because she fell ill, I said, I need to go back home
To India.
to be with her. So I
Yes.
left Israel, and went back home to be with her. And that's where he came to visit his grandmother.
So she was there at
I
that
was
time.
there.
Talk about all the
that-
stars aligning.
Yeah, so
yeah.
he was there. Then he came to visit. It clicked again.
I was there for a couple of weeks, and
We got engaged.
we got engaged at the end of the 2 weeks. It
Oh,
was-
wow.
Yeah. So and it was kind of people say, "Oh, you got engaged after 2 weeks." Well, no. I mean, I
You
knew
knew
her
each
from
other for
7
years.
years
Yeah,
before that.
That's right.
So
That's
we
right.
got engaged, and then because my mom was ill, We had the wedding 2 months later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So he
yeah, we
went
had a
back,
very quick.
And he went back to Canada and returned with his mom, dad, and brother. And then we had the wedding. And my mom passed away 3 months later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
And so, but in a way, your mother brought the two of you together.
Together.
Yeah.
I was like an instant connection with her mom, with me. I just, I just felt like I'd known her, for a long
Isn't that
time. And-
wonderful?
And even though like she had motor neuron disease,
Yes.
okay, so that's very
Debilitating.
accelerated,
Yeah.
And she couldn't really talk, but she kind of motioned to take her necklace. She had a necklace on, and she gave it to me, but
she told my sister, take it off
take
and
it off
give it
and
to
give
you.
it to me, and I was like, it's like one of those touching moments,
Yeah.
where I don't really, I haven't, spent a lot of time with you, but I think she just kind of knew.
She connected
could
with Ken.
feel that, okay, this guy's, going to be with my daughter, and
And he's going to do a good job, be
Yeah.
a good husband.
I don't know about a good job, but
Well, how
but-
many years are you two together?
27. We're going to be 27 years
In
in
January.
January.
Mazel
So,
tov, that's
yeah.
lovely. Yeah, so you've done all right. That's pretty good. That's a good run, as they say. That's beautiful. And so so then what happened? You moved to Canada.
Yeah, then after he asked me to put my papers in, he said, take your time, be with your mom, she's not well. And then so I put all my papers in. I had to get clearance from India.
Yes.
And I had to get clearance from Israel because I had made Aliyah to
You'd already
Israel.
moved and
I'd
become an
already
Israeli
moved to Israel,
citizen.
and
Yep.
I just wanted to live there. Like I think I would live there in a heartbeat if I had to.
Even now, yeah.
Even now,
That's-
one day. But then I put my papers in, and then after I think because of the clearance from Israel and everything,
while.
and all, it took a while. I took my time because I didn't want to leave my dad alone.
Yes.
I had my older sister there, but still he was so used to, and just lost his wife and my mom. And you know how men are after being together for so many years. They were married for 45 years.
Oh, wow.
So
So it would have been hard for him. So
he didn't know
so
how
you
to
helped
boil
him
an egg.
adjust.
I had
Yeah.
to teach him to boil an egg, make a cup of tea.
Right.
Because you grow up, but you have help at home and this. So then after 6 months, I think I landed in
In
Toronto.
Canada.
Yeah.
And how long did the two of you live in Canada together?
But
We were
Ken
there
lived
the
his.
whole, I was there the whole time. Like we left in 2012 to
Yes.
come here,
Right.
so we were there together.
I'm almost 21 years. I live there.
In Canada,
Canada,
right.
21 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Wow.
Ken is all his life now. What, how much? 40, 45 years.
You know, shh, don't-
Yeah.
People start doing the
Who
math
talks
now,
about numbers, doesn't matter.
But I loved it there.
And so what made you leave Canada and come to Australia?
Because of family. It's my family. My sister's here, my other nieces here, my nephew's here. She just put it into our head and she said, and Ken's parents passed away too, unfortunately, within a year's time. So his mom passed away in 99, dad passed away in 2000.
Yes.
So my sister just put it into her head. She's been here almost 35 years.
Wow.
In Melbourne, in Australia. So she put it into her head. She said, it would be nice to have the family together. Why don't you think of moving? You have one son, Joshua. He'll have, all our cousins are here. So we said,
Joshua, I know, is JD.
JD, yeah. So we said, why not? Let's try. Ken's close to my family. And if my in-laws were alive, maybe not. But
Yes.
we put our papers in and everything just moved.
just kind of flowed,
And
one
they
thing to
moved.
another, went for medicals,
And they
that
granted
was
it us, and we got our PR. But the thing is, we never came right away. We got our PR in 2007.
And it's valid for 5 years. So
Yeah.
you can migrate anywhere in between that,
2007 and
issuance right up to 5 years after. So we waited till
We
1 week.
But we came and stamped
come
our,
on.
1 week before it expired.
Wow.
But we came and stamped our papers and went back.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
to validate it.
So you thought,
make a
we'll
trip.
come here,
Yeah.
we'll get settled,
Valid, yeah.
and then we'll move everything over.
And we
Right.
went back, we stamped our papers, went back, had Josh's bar mitzvah in Toronto, which I had to, which was a big affair. But then and then in 2012, we said, if we don't make a move now, we'll never know.
Never know.
Yeah.
We just wanted to see. And
See.
there's always an option. Like I took leave from my job. I worked for the government for over 20 years.
Yes.
And I thought, that's the Canadian government, and it was a respected job and, position I had. I'm not just going to throw it away.
You know,
I'm
it's a
going to
big
see how
move.
it goes,
Yeah.
And so they allow you to take a sabbatical leave. You can do it for 3 months, or you can do it for a year. So I took it for the 1 year, just to see how it would go. And the other thing, like Esther said, the main thing was our son,
Yes.
because he was in his mid-teens. He was like 15.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a funny
tough
age.
time to
Tough
move,
time.
yeah.
If he didn't like it, or if we didn't adjust, I think we would have gone back. Because I had my job, we had a house, we had a great community, great friend circle. Our synagogue, B'nai Shalom, Tikwa, we were like family there.
Yes.
Even though I missed my family, but they were my family. So we did a lot of things together. So it was a really big, hard move to make. But, and I said, if Joshua, like you say, JD didn't like it,
Yeah.
we would have moved back. But the King David School was just
progressive Jewish
amazing.
school, yeah.
The progressive
Yeah.
was just amazing for Josh.
And they did a wonderful job.
Embraced him,
They took him in, embraced him, and I think there's no turning back from there. Josh said, you want to go back, you go, I'm fine.
He would have stayed.
He was staying, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you thought, that's it, we have to stay there.
That's it, yeah.
And so that's wonderful. And what about for you two as adults? Did you find that there was a lot in the community
yeah,
that
it was
embraced
pretty
you?
rough. Like, I mean,
It
I would
was
say
rough coming. It was hard.
Yeah.
now, I would say in the last 2 years, things have sort of gelled together for us,
I was homesick, actually.
She was very
I was
homesick.
ve-
She was
and
more
it's-
homesick for Canada than I was.
And it's my family here.
Right.
It's not my family, but I was very bad. I
bad,
was
like-
homesick.
A good 2 or 3 years, she was like depressed,
Yeah.
about
Like, I
leaving
just-
Canada. And
I just wondered, what did I do? Did I make the right move?
Well, it's a very far away
It's a
place
far
from
away.
Canada all
Yeah.
the way to
You're
Australia.
selling a home, and we were settled. We were very
Yeah.
settled.
and even though I'm pretty close to being born in Canada. I left India when I was 10 months. So that's all I knew, Canada. But I think I kind of adjusted a little better. I'm not. It's probably character type or something. She's very, very clingy. She's
Personalities are different.
Yeah, she's very.
Like I miss my friends,
Friends,
miss my grocery store,
Yes.
miss my streets.
Me,
I
it's
miss
like,
the autumn, I miss the winter.
Yeah.
The winter,
Yeah.
the snow.
Yeah, yeah.
Though
Yeah.
I grew up in Bombay, but I think my heart, my life also
Your
was in,
adult life was in
was
Canada.
in Canada. It was great. So
And I had a lot of close friends that I was leaving, but it was like, hey, I'll talk to you later, I'll Skype you or something.
maybe
you know?
women,
Figure it
men,
out.
I think
When,
women,
when, before Zoom, right?
Yeah, before Zoom. So,
I think women and men are different. I think we just, we
For
have
sure.
emotional attachments to things.
And personalities different, of
different.
course, as well. And so for the two of you now, though, what would you say in terms of living in Australia? What do you love about it?
I love Melbourne. I mean, I'm
a great
really
city.
happy that my family is here. I'm happy that we found Temple Beth. It's like home for us. I came from a small shul to a big one,
Yeah.
but it still feels warm and
It
connected.
does. It does.
So, and I think now, again, we both are running the canteens at King David School. So I think that having employment and having your own business
Yeah.
has made a big difference in stabilizing our life here now,
Well, it's wonderful, actually, and thank you for mentioning it. I was going to bring it up later, that you actually rushed here right from work, which was
did.
really gorgeous of both of you. And your business is called
it's
Esther's Kitchen.
Esther's
Esther's
Kitchen.
Kitchen. That's which we trade as Esther's Kitchen, and our actual company name is Canadian Maple Down Under, which was registered as soon as we got to Australia, in the hopes that we would start a business. And I would just basically renew it every year, not doing anything with it.
Right.
But it came to fruition, over the last couple of years. And we kind of took on the Esther's Kitchen name.
And you're once again working with food, packing
are.
food together,
We
which
are,
is
exactly right.
fantastic. Now, thinking a little bit about just things that perhaps our listeners might find interesting in terms of the way that things are celebrated differently in Canada, in India, and in Australia. What would be, say, one difference each that you might talk about in terms of either a Jewish holiday or a festival that you would say is celebrated differently than what is here in Australia? Ken, maybe you'll go while Esther's grabbing some water.
Sorry.
I mean, Hanukkah, well, I mentioned earlier, about Hanukkah, it wasn't, we didn't have a big, massive celebration. Now you see a lot of commercial impacts.
What about Newfoundland?
Newfoundland, yeah, sorry, Newfoundland. I mean,
Excuse me, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're all right?
Yeah.
Good, okay.
tickle. We didn't have a lot of influences
Yes.
in Newfoundland, but it was just a basic. My dad, dad and mom would give us one little gift at the beginning of Hanukkah, and that was it,
Right.
And we would just do the lights, sing a song, and it didn't seem like a big do, But now, over having my son, and friends and family, I think I would rather have it that way.
Yes.
Where you make big, you do big, and when festivals come up, celebrate them and make the most of them.
And part of being in a big community like Temple Beth Israel, that gives you the opportunity to also celebrate with lots of people.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you do things at shul, you do things at home, then you do things with your friends and your family, and it's all kinds of different things, and then we've got other areas of Judaism, the Chabad, and all these people that kind of they invite us over, and it's a lot of different.
Lots of opportunity to experience.
Correct.
That's so good. So I'm going to go through now. We've come to that segment that we ask all of our guests. It's something I like to call the 8 corny candle questions. It's specifically for Hanukkah. I mean, I'm sure I can talk to you guys for hours and hours about so many different topics. It's been so wonderful listening to you. But we'll wrap up with these Hanukkah questions for now. And I'll ask you, growing up, what was your favorite Hanukkah memory, Esther?
I have a couple. In India, we always had oil lamps. So we always lit lamps, oil ones. And I always, my father had a big oil lamp in the shape of a Magen David.
Okay.
And it
Star
came
of
out,
David.
Star
yes.
of David, and it came out, outward like this. And it had glasses inside with oil, and we would light it. So I always wanted the last day, because I would get to light more.
All the oil
candles.
things, yes.
Yeah, and I would, so I would, have a little fight or an argument, but I always won because I was the youngest. And another thing that I like is in Canada, I used to take the dreidel and the Hanukkah and go to Josh's school, because he went to French immersion first.
Yes.
And we would do, that was very good about Canada, where we taught the kids different holidays. Like they had Kwanzaa in December, and of course Hanukkah, and then
Christmas.
And the kids loved playing with the dreidel.
Yes.
So I would teach them the dreidel game and show them how to play and what gelt was. So the kids in Josh's school were excited that, oh, Josh's mom's going to come and we're going to play the dreidel game and we're going to get gelt.
Chocolate. That's fantastic.
I want to add one thing, and that was that we had one of our good friends, Howard, from
yes.
Toronto. He got it in his head that he wanted to construct the world's largest dreidel.
That was our synagogue in Canada,
So, and he actually put together, him and a couple of other friends, Mike Cohen and Andrew Kay and a few other people. And I was involved as well, but they were intense about putting together this dreidel. They constructed out of metal and wood and cloth and all kinds of things, a huge dreidel.
Wow.
And I
How
think
big
they
was
were
it?
actually trying to get it into the Guinness book. It was probably 1 story.
Wow.
Yes. as high as one house, as high as a home. You know, a single story, at least 10 feet, 12 feet.
I should remember. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can't, but I don't know what happened with all of that.
But we all
Does it still exist? or-
It is in their
I'm
parts.
sure they have it. They have it. You know, it's something that could be taken apart. You know,
But I think,
so.
yeah.
Howard's probably still got the majority of all those parts in his garage. I'm sure. But we actually got together in one of the parks,
In a huddle, cold winter
Freezing
night. Freezing
December.
winter December night.
and we actually had all these strings attached to the thing, and we actually spun
Spun
it.
it.
Oh, wow.
We were able to spin it, and you know there were a lot of failings, you know, where it would just flop over. But we actually, and you had to run. We all had to run and keep it
to make the dreidel go.
and to keep a
Yeah.
equidistance, you know, as you run. And there must have been about 20, 25 of us with a string, and we were all running
Because there's four sides to, the
this
dreidel.
correct.
So
You know, and it was this huge thing and heavy. So I mean, if it's coming down, you get out of the way.
that is amazing.
Yes.
Well, one of my later questions was, what is the best dreidel story you've got? But I think you've covered that.
There you go.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and that was, I think, when Josh was, 8 or 9.
Yeah, and
Wow.
the
8 or
rabbi
9
and
years
everybody,
old.
it was freezing that night. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
So
So all the kids were there and all the adults were there, and that's again just one of those bonding moments, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And then we all went to, I think, Tim Hortons, you know, which is a coffee shop in
Unlike
Canada.
coffee in Melbourne, that's dishwater.
Dishwater coffee.
Well, it's more of a chain restaurant than it is here. where they're,
Percolated coffee.
You know, the artisans of
Yeah.
the baristas here. And so if I were to ask you both, what is your number one Hanukkah food? What would you say it is and why?
I'm gonna say it's my wife's corn latkes.
Corn latkes.
Yeah, and sometimes she infuses some of them with these tiny little chilies that make it hot, and you have it with sour cream, and you can have it with, sometimes you can add applesauce, and just so good.
Nice.
Not like the regular latke. It's Esther's famous corn latkes.
So we're going to need that recipe too. The halava, and the
Yeah.
I'm keeping
Yeah,
track here.
I'm
It's
actually, I'm
fantastic.
thinking about it now. My mouth is.
Well, it's coming up in a couple of days, so you have
Exactly.
plenty of opportunity. And
My mom used to make coconut pancakes for Hanukkah.
oh,
Yeah, she used to stuff like grated sweetened coconut inside a little pancake, and that's what I used to like. But I do like the regular latkes.
the potato pancakes.
potato
So,
pancakes.
but do you still make the coconut pancakes?
When I have a chance, like I would make it because it is a little laborious and time consuming.
Yeah.
But
She roughly averages once every 5 years, I would think.
but I
Well,
would
maybe
make
try for this year. We've spent a
Maybe.
lot of
yeah,
time at
but
home.
I would make it there.
That's gorgeous. That sounds fabulous. Another recipe that's a third one, just keeping track, letting you know I'm not forgetting. All right, now how do you spell Hanukkah? I understand there's 16 different ways to spell Hanukkah. How do you spell it? Each of you have a go. Why do you think it's spelled differently?
Well, I mean, it's not Hanukkah. It's Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
It's Hanukkah. So I used to, you know, it really doesn't matter. I mean, there's a lot of it's the way it sounds. You can spell
I
it
do it
whatever.
CH.
C-H.
I do too. I do. And then
I do too.
now I think it just has a little more character. I
Hanukkah.
just find that CHANUKAH
Yes.
always
So
end it with an
one
H.
N
This
and
is-
an H at the
H at
end.
the
This is right. This is, you know, we're talking Hebrew and Israel, and you know, you have to end it with an H. Okay?
Excellent.
And not H, but H.
H. I'm with you guys from North America. And so, exchanging gifts at Hanukkah. Do you exchange gifts? Or?
Yes.
We like to do it.
We love that.
It
you know.
could be the North American thing, I don't know, but we enjoy doing it.
We do too,
Even if
yeah.
it's a little underwear packed in a little package that I
Yes.
gave Joshua once.
Yeah.
And he'd say,
He'll be thrilled to know that you're talking about his underwear.
Yeah. He opened it.
I said,
It was
"What
the
is
8-day
this?"
thing. We were doing, you know, a little gift on each of the 8
not
days.
about the gifts,
And
but, you know.
Esther packed an underwear. And,
a new
you know,
underwear, nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, good, it was new.
And he opened it and he went,
So we would give him socks and this
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that. You know, it's not about buying a big, heavy
No.
gift or anything. You know, we'll always
Something
have
to
Thoughts.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we always bought a new dreidel, though. We
Yeah.
always had a new dreidel. We have a collection of dreidels, and you must see our collection of Hanukkahs.
I would
We
love
have
to.
about 13.
14.
Oh, wow.
14, and we like
We like
all
them
of them.
every year.
Oh, all of them.
All of them.
Because my dad used to always say, you have a Hanukkah, you have to light it. You don't disrespect it by keeping it in the cupboard. So, and Ken is a collector of Hanukkah, so I have 14. So we take one dining table and put it on the table, put foil over it, and we put all the 14 menorahs on there, and we light them.
That's gorgeous.
So whoever comes to the house doesn't need to bring their own menorah.
There's plenty there.
There's plenty to light. So the last day, we don't need any lights in the
Yeah,
house.
we just have, KC Fire Department on call. You know?
Just in
Just be
case.
careful, yeah.
A fire blanket just right by the. That's fantastic. That's,
And the
that is
gift giving,
gorgeous.
I think the other thing I just remembered is that, obviously, for Christians, they have Santa Claus. We
yeah.
have Hanukkah Harry.
Harry.
So we always used to say, oh,
It's
John,
a very North American thing.
yeah. JD, what did you get from Hanukkah Harry?
Yeah, right. Also an invented, commercial
commercial,
thing
yeah.
in North America,
That's it.
for sure. And so what Jewish holiday or festival, not including Hanukkah, do you enjoy celebrating the most and why?
Mine?
For both of you.
You know what? I'm going to go with my favorite, which is God's honest truth, Shabbat. That's my favorite. It comes once a week,
Yes.
and I look forward to it. And it's that period of roughly 24 hours where it's kind of I just go into another mode, and it's family time for us. Start of Shabbat, on a Friday evening, and again, when we do Havdalah on Saturday night, again it's a family thing, but that's to me
Havdalah marking the end.
marking the end of Shabbat. Yeah, I just think. I mean, all of obviously there are all of the festivals are important, but for me, Shabbat is the most important thing, and I think it just represents family and love and kinship and just the whole thing, So
It's
that's
beautiful.
mine.
I
And
love the
Esther?
high holidays.
You like the
I
Rosh
love
Hashanah, Yom
Rosh
Kippur?
Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre. I just feel the excitement. Even growing up in Bombay, like my house mom would be washing and cleaning the house and changing. Even for Pesach, you do
Yeah.
it. But I think there's something about Rosh Hashanah, and then we would get new clothes and new shoes, and everything was new, and it was just
To start out the new year and
start of
celebrate the new year.
Everything is new, Let
Reflect
bygones
on
be
stuff.
bygones for Yom Kippur. You've heard somebody, you have a chance to
Apologize.
apologize and to, move ahead and reconnect. And Yom Kippur is so holy and such a beautiful holiday that I feel the high holidays are my favorite, ending it with Simchat Torah and having Sukkot and,
So Sukkot, another harvest festival, Simchat Torah,
Torah.
the reading of the Torah, the end and the beginning.
of it. So I truly, and we've begun building a sukkah in our backyard, I
Over the
think.
last 3 years.
Oh, wonderful. And you do
Melbourne,
build
yeah.
that every year,
We do,
the Sukkot, the temporary dwelling.
Dwelling, yeah. So last 4 years we've
4
been
years,
doing
yeah.
it.
That's one. And did you do it this year in COVID?
Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
We
did.
enjoyed it more in COVID, actually.
Oh, you had a new place to visit. You get to go outside
Yeah, but,
and have dinner. It's like in a restaurant, right?
Exactly.
You're out. It's
Nobody
special.
could come visit us, which is a shame, but yeah, we got to go and maybe spend more time and really relax a little bit.
So
Yeah.
kudos to Sukkah Mart for giving us that, that all the props and the actual put together thing. But
Oh, where did you get it?
Sukkah Mart.
Sukkah
Yeah,
Mart.
I'll do a little plug there. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
really,
I'm sure
it's
they'll
a
appreciate
really,
the
really
plug. Well done.
sturdy
well done.
and handy.
And the
fabulous.
Kabad Rabbi from Moorabbin and Dingley village gives us all the
Shakak,
shakaks to put on the
leaves.
The leaves and things to
yeah,
put on the
yeah.
top. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so, an outside looking in question, if you were to celebrate a holiday or festival from a different religion or culture, what would you say would be one that you would like to celebrate or you've already had a chance to celebrate?
For me, being in Canada and being in a city where a town where Judaism just didn't exist other than what we had.
Yes.
Christmas, Christianity. All my friends were Irish and Scottish and English, and they were heavily into Christmas, and they welcomed us. And likewise, didn't often have people over because we didn't do a lot during that time, but they used to have me over you know, they didn't care that, you know, Ken was Jewish and
Yeah.
just a newfie, you know?
Yeah,
Just
Newfoundland.
another newfie, you know, and
That's
just fun. It was fun being with them, you know. I took part in, you know, the gift giving and you embrace other cultures. You don't have to, you know, it doesn't make you one.
No,
I'm not a
no,
Christian just because I did all that, right?
That's
But
right. It's wonderful
you
to
just-
be
you
able to
respect
learn.
You respect and you can embrace other cultures as well.
That's right. That's right. And Esther, how about for you? What's your favorite holiday?
Coming from India, there's so many different holidays that you could take part in. They had this one festival called Holi, where they throw color on each other.
Okay.
Now, you don't have to go to a temple or anything for that. So I
You
would
throw color?
Color.
Just
Powder, like a powder.
Powder.
Yeah.
You know, water
I'd s-
balloons.
yeah.
It's a spring festival, and they would throw water balloons and powder color.
You get wet. You throw the water balloon and then they throw the powder and it
Powder.
sticks.
Sticks
you know?
on you.
So
it
good.
looks like, you know, you
called Holi.
walk around with this, you know, you're pink and purple and blue and
And
it's
what
on your
does it
face.
symbolize?
I think it's the Holi is the spring festival that they would have. I don't know exactly the meaning of it, but I knew at one point, but I forgot it. And a whole day we would play water balloons, throw at each other, and then in the evening they would the Hindus would go to the temple, light fire. It's called Baisakhi. I think it's basically a spring festival, but I don't know what it symbolizes. I enjoy taking part in that. Another one was Diwali. Diwali is good over evil, where their Lord Ram kills the evil Ravan, like our Purim, you know.
Yes. Yes.
How we get rid of Haman.
Yes.
So this same way, and that's why they light fireworks and lots of food to eat. I enjoy taking part in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, if I were to ask you, what is one thing that the audience does not know about Hanukkah that you can share, maybe from your perspectives, what would you say?
I'm going to deflect that one over to my wife because I
me?
think she's got something.
Oh, no, I just found something that can I read it?
Yeah, please.
It says, let's get cheesy. Another Hanukkah tradition that is slightly less known about is the eating of cheese.
Really?
One subplot in the story of Hanukkah, as stipulated in the book of Judith, is the beheading of an enemy Assyrian general called, how do you pronounce it? Holofernes, Holoffernes. Holofernes, by a Jewish widow.
Okay.
How did she do it? By getting him full on alcohol and cheese until he passed out. Her brutal murder is said to have frightened the Assyrian soldiers into retreat. So, Jewish cheese lovers, this is truly a holiday you can get on board with.
So this is a story that's, instead of the Maccabees doing the fighting, it was actually this woman,
This widow,
during the destruction of the Second Temple.
she got rid of this Assyrian general by feeding him alcohol and cheese.
I've never heard this before.
I've never heard
but
this.
And I don't know that celebrating his death's a good thing.
But-
As Jewish tradition would tell us to remember, the face of God in everyone and always remembering the things. But given the victory and the celebration of this historical time, cheese becomes an opportunity.
And there's another little one, is Israeli Burger King offers a donut burger over Hanukkah.
Oh, the Israelis, Burger King has a donut burger at Hanukkah.
Hanukkah,
That's a good one.
Yeah,
like
it
that
says,
too.
you read that if it was first introduced in 2016, Burger King in Israel came up with a special donut burger called Sufgani King.
That's great.
It's
Sufgani, the Donut King.
It's a normal Whopper hamburger,
With
but
a donut.
with donuts replacing the buns and ketchup replacing the normal jelly donut filling.
Is it bad that I'm like salivating thinking about that right now? That sounds so good. Well, look, thank you so much for coming along and sharing so much of yourselves and your story
It's a pleasure.
and multiculturalism for both the multicultural community and the Jewish community. It's really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us,
Both
Jody.
of
you so
yours,
much.
really
Our pleasure.
fantastic. And finally, just one more plug. Join us each night of Hanukkah at 6:15 as we share the light and the candle lighting, music, stories, and more from our community and beyond. And also each day of Hanukkah, do not forget, if you want a donut, you can get free donuts here at our donut drive-through for Hanukkah, and that will be from 5 to 6 p.m. at TBI. Don't hesitate. You don't have to be Jewish. Just come and get some donuts. We'd love to see you. Thank you so much. Shalom.
Sure. Thank you, Jody.